Okay, so this is part 3 of the 3-part video that I'm making about the J.K. Rowling controversy. I know it's a little weird that I just spent almost an entire video just reading an essay that you guys can just go look up and read yourself, and maybe you guys did. But I really do believe that there is a difference between hearing words and then it's just so much easier to be hostile when you read something versus when you see a face and you hear words. And again, that's not me, that's J.K. Rowling, but I resonated very much with what she said. So in this last video, I'm going to take some time to stress, I guess just to focus on the parts that I really agree with, and I think really needs to be said. And also parts that I think, like, it's easy to, like, see, there's the transphobia in her essay, it's right there, and just to kind of think, like, just kind of be in defense of J.K. Rowling, basically. Like, I don't think that's how she meant this. And one of those times, for example, was towards the end, I have my computer right here, where she had said, let me find it. I should have gotten it ready before I open this. But this is from the essay. So, quote, "But as many women have said before me, woman is not a costume. Woman is not an idea in a man's head. Woman is not a pink brain, a liking for Jimmy Choo's, or any of the other sexist ideas." So, you get it. I don't even know if I said that name right, Jimmy Choo's. I don't even know who that is. But anyway, I think a lot of people who are inclined to disagree and to see what proves their already pre-existing stance correct are going to hear that and think, she's saying transgenderism is just dress up. They just wanna be a woman, and I just feel like that's gonna be, I understand it, like I do, that's why I think that's gonna be the response for a lot of people, is it's like she doesn't believe that transgenderism is real. Look, transgenderism is real. It's always been around. It's not something that has always been talked about, though. It is real. It is a dysphoria. And it is an unfortunate predicament to be in. Like, it is unfortunate to feel different than what your body looks like. Like I know this is one thing that I resonated a lot with in her essay. This is why I care so much about this issue, is she talks a lot about how a lot of women feel just kind of this, like, basically this, like, hatred for being a woman. This has really, really resonated with me, especially in recent years. For some reason, it's not that I hate being a woman in the sense that I think it's bad. It's just that there's so much vulnerability that comes along with it sometimes. And I think, honestly, this is kind of a side note, but I think that today's radical feminism is part of the reason that I hate being a woman, because I feel like this is a side note, I'll probably make another video about this later on, but I think that a lot of times today's feminism and how it exists in real life situations values men and men-related things over women and women-related things. And so a lot of women feel like if they're more of a traditional woman, then they're bad, or they're inferior. They have inferior interests and values, which is unfortunate. And it's unfortunate that this is coming from a movement that is supposed to be good for women. So anyway, that's a side note. But the point is, I resonated with that part of this kind of having a battle with yourself, being a woman, and knowing how hard it can be sometimes. And she makes a good point of, like, transitioning, like, in this culture, like, a lot of people, like, I could see how you just wanted to escape being a woman by not being one anymore. I'm not gonna lie, like, I never seriously considered transitioning or anything, because I don't want to, and I'm not a transgender or anything, obviously, but I'm just saying that there are moments where I've been like, I wonder what would happen if I did decide. Like, just a brief moment of, like, What if I did just like go to the, like it was never serious, it was never a long thought, it was just a brief, like, I wonder. And I could see how some people who go through similar situations like that could act on it. I really do see how some women can just have that one thought, but it doesn't just end there like it did for me. Like, I could see how it could end up in the medical appointment room. I could see it could end up where they actually end up getting it, and then 10 years down the road they realize they created a very permanent solution for a temporary issue, basically. This isn't, I'm not talking about people where transitioning is good for them, because there are people out there like that. I'm talking about people who it's not. I mean, not every solution works for every kind of issue, right? Like, what works for one person, even if they have the same issue as another person, it may not work for the other person. This is true with everything. And yeah, I'm just saying that I could see how there's probably women out there who have done that. And I think a lot of people are going to be, I think one of the most horrible accusations that J.K. Rowling gets is she just doesn't care. She hates she hates trans people, and she just wants to, she doesn't care, it's not in their best interest. It's like, do you guys realize that if let's say if people said that to me, which, you know, part of me, I'm not gonna lie, part of me is a little afraid that I'm gonna get that, though I don't like have a lot of like subscribers or anything, but even so, it's such a controversial issue. But like, imagine if I played by those same rules. If someone is calling me transphobic for saying this, what if I played by those same rules? What if I was like, you know, because you think that I'm wrong, then that must mean that you hate women. It's like, I don't think you hate women. I just think a lot of you guys don't realize what's happening to a lot of women about this issue. But I don't think you like hate women and want to take away their rights, and I don't think you like that they don't feel that they don't have spaces for a lot of female specific similarities in their experiences. Like, I wouldn't go around calling someone a bigot because they have a different take on why they believe the things that they do. And one thing it's one thing to have something be controversial because there's not a lot of information on it. It's another thing for something to be controversial that is just so obviously true, which is that sex is real. Okay, I'm sorry, the truth is sex is real. This is not an attack on transgender people. You don't have to be a non-trans person to know this. I mean, I've known transgender people who are like, yeah, sex is real, but there's a difference between how you feel and then your biological reality. Like, and I'm not saying that just because you feel something that doesn't mean it's real. Like, I'm actually a strong believer in how real things in your head are. I really do believe that. So that's not an attack on that stance either, actually. And I do use pronouns. I mean, if someone wants to be called a frog, I probably wouldn't. That'd be a little dumb, but I'm not saying that to make fun of the movement. I'm saying that there is obviously a limit to where I'll stop. But yeah, I mean, I've had transgender friends, and even though, you know, some of my political stances have changed, I'm still totally fine with calling them the pronoun they choose. I'm friends with some transgender people online, but other people have unfriended me because probably my stance on this, which is unfortunate. But I just try to judge people individually, and I'm going off track here, but the thing is it false to say that there is a difference between, is it false to say there are differences between a biological female and a transgender woman? Someone who transitions from, it's not false to say that. In the same way that it's not false to say that there are also similarities between the two. Like, there are certain situations that a transgender woman won't be able to identify with personally that a lot of women can. Like, let's say you have a sex change at 25. You're not going to know what it's like to go through puberty as a woman when you were 12 to 15. But you will know what it's like to go through puberty as a woman, as a transgender woman who hadn't yet transitioned, who was having gender dysphoria. Just like a lot of other transgender women will. We should have spaces for those people. Like, if I, as a cisgender person, if I were to just claim the right to say that I know what it's like to go through gender dysphoria, and therefore I should be allowed, like I am no, like there are some spaces that other kinds of people shouldn't, like it's okay to, no, I'm not saying that like it should be law and some, like, but there are some things that a biological trans person just cannot relate to. In the same way that there are some things that a biological woman that doesn't transition and doesn't have gender dysphoria cannot relate to. It's the same idea. It's the same thing. And the same thing meaning it comes from the same philosophy of people need their spaces. I'm also a believer in there should be spaces for everyone too, but it's okay to have specific spaces too. Especially when women are so vulnerable. There's so many vulnerable things about being a woman, and there's just some things that being a transgender woman you won't be able to relate to, and neither will I to you. It's not an attack on you, it's an attack on just the reality of what things are like. In the same way that you won't be able to rate I say you meaning any transgender woman out there, you're not going to be able to relate to a biological male who isn't transgender as much as you will a biological female, probably. Like, there's similarities and differences all around, from transgender men to women to biological men who don't to men who don't transition and women who don't, like, they're everywhere. It's okay to have different spaces, and it's okay to not want to date someone for certain things. Like, there are let's, how would I put it? There's people have things that they're not okay with, that they don't want to put up with in their sex life or their relationship life. This isn't just transgenderism. This is like, maybe it's, I don't want to date someone who, I don't know, maybe someone doesn't want to date someone who lives by the ocean because they're like, it's a little like, I know it's a little like far-fetched or whatever, but like everyone has things that, like, it's not saying that someone who lives by the ocean is less of a human. It's just saying that there's certain things that you don't want on your list of requirements. And if one of those is, as one of the ladies in this video, if one of those things is, I'm a lesbian and therefore I'm attracted to people with female genitalia, but this transgender man or transgender woman still has balls, or is still biologically male as you are, then that shouldn't be a bigoted thing to that's just a preference. What would be bigoted would be to say that person is not human and not worthy of equal rights and of equal value and equal treatment. That's what would be bigoted. So I'm afraid that I've been too divisive with my words, and I know I said I didn't want to do that. So I'm really trying not to be, and I just want to take a step back right now to just, like, let you guys know, like, I'm not trying to divide people from political lines or the transgender stance. Like, I'm trying to have people meet each other in the middle. One way that people who already agree with some of what I'm saying may, if there's anything I would say to those, is, like, make sure that, like, transgenderism is real. It is a thing. Like, it's an unfortunate thing to go through. I can only imagine what it must be like to, your mind feels so much different than what your body looks like. Like, that has to cause a lot of pain. I don't know specifically, I can use empathy, but there's always going to be the empathy gap. But it's just, I don't really know what it's like, but I could imagine as best as I can. And, like, I have nothing but empathy and sympathy for these people. But biological realities do matter as well. And solutions need to lie in truth, in evidence, and in facts. They shouldn't lie in feelings. The reason you're doing it can be feelings, like, I have a good cause, I'm using it, I have good reasons, it's because I care. But solutions aren't going to come from feelings. They're going to come from truth and evidence and what's been tried and what has worked. And it's definitely not going to happen by going back in time and undoing so much work that has been done for so many kinds of people. And so if I had any advice for someone, let's say little bit more right on the political spectrum, it would be to take these concerns seriously. Don't just throw up in the air like, oh my God, everyone just wants to be different, so I can just be a draft now. Like, don't straw man the argument. They do have a good point that there is, I understand that there's obviously crazy people out there who, like, really do believe that, like, they can just be a draft and that means they are I mean, it's a free country, identify how you want, but transgenderism is very different. There is a legitimate case for it, there is a scientific reasoning behind it, and you should do some research on it. Someone I would recommend is Blair White. I know she gets a lot of crap, but I do recommend her. I honestly think if people didn't reflect their own pre-existing beliefs onto her, they would also be like, this girl isn't even saying that many things that are controversial. You know, she's been accused of how she's going to detransition one day because she's not really trans, and that hasn't happened. And just please hear me out on her, because I think she makes a good scientific case for transgender rights and transgender activism, which is unfortunate because, I mean, it's good, but it's unfortunate for people who disagree with her. I think it's unfortunate for transgender people, actually, because the people who are making the most unscientific arguments are getting the most traction, which means that the movement is kind of, I think, regressing. It's going to start getting less followers, which is unfortunate, because there is a fight to be fought, I believe, and I think that it's still very hard for people to come out as transgender to their family. Like, I really do still think that. But this is just one thing I'm going to say, is people on the right just need to take the issue seriously. Don't be saying that it's just like, it's nothing, it's people are just doing it for attention. With every kind of thing, there's going to be someone who does it for attention, okay? I understand that. But there's also, like, it started somewhere. It is a real thing. But people on the left need to understand that just because somebody, just hear people out when they're saying that the transgender activists of today's modern world and activism for it aren't 100% right about everything. If someone has a concern about something, no matter where they stand, don't assume that they're just doing it out of bigotry. Okay? Please don't assume that. And that goes for everyone. I mean, never enter a conversation assuming you're right. So the right needs to take the transgender issue seriously, and the left needs to take the critiques of the transgender activism seriously. That's what both people need to do, in my opinion. And lastly, I would say to anyone and everyone is that be careful that you're not killing your own allies. Be careful that you're not killing your own allies, because J.K. Rowling is an ally. And you're killing her. You're slaughtering her. Obviously, these are metaphoric terms, but it's unfortunate. Because I really do believe more people would be behind this movement if it was rooted more in reality and truth. But it's not right now. And I'm talking about the points that she is making and other people who have similar concerns have made. So just have love for people, be open-minded, and be seeking truth. And real solutions, and don't assume the worst of people. That's what I ask. Okay? Don't assume the worst of people. That's the last video. It's a 3-part video. I know they've all been very long, but thank you so much for everyone who stuck with me to the end of this. I know they were long videos, and I go off the deep end a lot, but next video I really am trying to make this scripted, and I do have a script. I'm finishing it up and editing it and stuff, but it's going to be about toxic masculinity. I'm sticking to that, and whether I think it's real, I'm steel manning both arguments. That's what the next video is going to be about. So I ask you to like and subscribe and share this video and the other 2 videos or any other video. Please encourage other people to do so as well. I really want to gain traction. I only have like 10 subscribers right now, so if you can even just hit up 5 people and be like, hey, this is my friend, or someone on my Facebook page, or someone I saw on YouTube. Just ask them to subscribe. Worst comes to worst, they don't, or they ignore you, right? Like, they're probably not going to do that. Just please do it. Thank you, thank you, thank you.